Hello everyone, this is Sohail Yunus and today I'm going to demonstrate repository and unit of work design pattern. As we all know, repository and unit of work design pattern is very important as it comes to enterprise level application. So it's very important to understand how to implement them. For today's demonstration, I will be using Visual Studio 2017, SQL Server 2017, .NET ASP.NET Core 2.2, dependency injection, HTML, and Bootstrap. So let's start. I already have a database. Name is MovieDB. It has 3 tables inside: director, genre, and movies. And that's the data currently I have in these tables. So let's start. The first thing I would like to do is create a web application project by clicking on File, New, Project, Web, ASP.NET Core Web Application, and I'm going to name it movieapp.web. But I don't want to give the same name to my solution, so I take .web out, click OK. On this dialog, I'm going to make sure that I have that right selection for the type of the framework, which is ASP.NET Core 2.2, which I want it. And I have a selection for web application MVC. So that's a project I will like to start this demo. I don't need any Docker and HTTPS support, so I'm making sure I'm unchecking that for now. No authentication needed. Okay, that's going to create a web application in Visual Studio. Once you have that, the next step is to create a data project where the data in data layer, we're going to have all the entity framework related classes. So let's create a new project by right clicking on the solution, add new .NET Core, and select class library .NET Core this time and name it movieapp.data. I don't need class1.cs. I'm going to delete this, and I would like to add a folder in this project, models. So this models folder, I'm going to generate all the entity framework related classes inside. So in order to generate the classes inside this project, we need to run 2 NuGet packages. The first thing, let's set up this project as startup project. Once you do that, there's a 3 way to run the NuGet packages. First is by right clicking on this project, manage NuGet packages. You can install these packages from this interface, or you can by clicking on this project, going into the tools, NuGet package manager and package manager console. Once you click on that, you can install those packages by writing commands in here. The third option, which is quite new, and Visual Studio 2017 provides you that option to edit the CS proj file by right clicking and edit movieapp.data.csproj. So you can directly type the NuGet packages here, and these are the 3 options you can go with. But for today's demonstration, I will be using package manager console. So I'm gonna run the commands: install Microsoft, install package Microsoft dot entity framework design, but make sure you have the movieapp.data selection here. Once you have that, hit enter. That package will be installed. The second package which we need to install is Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. Once you install that, the next step is generating those entity framework classes inside the folder more models. So we need to run a command which is called db scaffolding commands, scaffold db contacts, and this we need to pass the connection localhost output directive would be the folder we just created up in this movie app.data project. So let's review our command. Seems fine to me. Hit enter. That's supposed to generate all the entity framework related classes inside this folder models. Here you go. You see that for each database table there is one class got generated in addition to movie DB contacts which inherit from DB contacts. So this data layer is ready. The next step is to create another project for repositories. For that, click on the solution, right click, add new project, .NET Core, class library, and I'm gonna name it movie app.repos. We don't need class 1.cs. I'm gonna delete this. The next step is I'm going to create another folder. I'm gonna name that folder contracts. You can also name it interfaces because I'm planning to place all my interfaces in this folder. So my first interface is going to be iRepository, and let's define that interface by right clicking on this folder, add new item, interface, and I'm going to name this interface iRepository. Make it a public as it's a generic repository. So I'm going to pass type where T is a class. I'm going to define all the CRDU operation inside this interface. In addition, also I will define get all, get by ID, these kind of methods. So let's do that. The first is get all. It returns all the objects, all the list, and the second is T of get by ID. It's gonna take ID as an input. Add and then update and the last one is delete. Interface is ready, so let's generate a generic repository by right clicking on this project, add new item, select a class this time. I'm gonna name this generic repository. As it's a generic repository, so I will make sure that is inherited from iRepository, T where T is a class, and make sure you make it a public. And you see this Visual Studio is complaining, so you need to implement all the methods which define in this interface by clicking on this implement, and Here you go. I would like to define two variables here, db context and db set. And the second one is db set. We need to add namespace. Here you go. So we also need to define a constructor for that. Type CTOR tab is going to generate a constructor for you. Pass db movie db context into this constructor, and make sure you assign that with the private variable db context, and make sure you db set get initialized as well. Here you go. So let's start implementing these methods. So return this .db set to list, which will return enumerable of p. Next is get by id this .db set, find pass id into it, and the next one is add this .db set, add pass entity. The next one is update db set dot attach entity. You also have to do db context dot tree to set state the object. Modify. Here you go. So the last one is delete. This .db set. Remove and pass entity into it. So your generic repository is ready. Now start defining the concrete repository interfaces for each of the database objects. In order to do that, right click on the contracts. The first, I'm going to define an interface for, add new interface. I'm going to name it movie repository. Make sure it's public, and I'm gonna define methods like enumerable of movie get top 10 movies in a year. Top movies in a year, so I can pass a year, and I can pass a year, and if you want like top 5, so I will pass a count also into this. So let's keep it simple for now. Just for one method is good enough. Let's define second interface for, I'm gonna name this iDirector repository. iDirectory repository. Make it public. I'm going to define a method is the IEnumerable of director get all director by movie language. So I will pass a language with this method definition. Here you go. So the last one interface is iGenre interface. I make it a public, and I'm not defining any method in this interface for now. So let's define, let's generate a concrete classes which they're going to implement all these interfaces. So the first is movie repository. By right clicking on the project, add new item, class movie repository, make it public, make sure you inherit with generic repository, movie repository, and we need to implement all these methods. I also would like to define here one private variable of DB contacts. And make sure you assign this with the constructor contacts. So how we can get the top movies by its rating. So let's write a link query here. This dot DB contacts movies where we need to import system.linkqueue, release date dot year order by, we also have to order by rating, descending, here you go. This query will return us top movies. If we want to get 5 top movies in a year, we can pass 5 in count. And if we want to get, for example, if we want to get 5 top movies in 2016, we're going to pass 2016 and 5 to this method, and it will return top 5 movies in that particular year. So while this repository is ready, so the next step is we can for now we can skip the director and genre repository implementation, and we go to the unit of work repository, unit of work implementation. So let's define an interface for unit of work first. By right clicking on the context, add new item. I'm going to define an interface I unit of work. Make it a public. I'm also gonna inherit from my disposable. Commit. So let's implement this interface in a class, and I'm gonna name this class unit of work. Make it public. Inherit that from iUnit of work, and you need to implement all the members of iUnit of work. I would like to define private DB contacts member, read only, movie DB contacts, and the second step I'm gonna generate a constructor for this. So you have to type CTOR tab is gonna generate constructor for you, and make sure you pass DB contacts variable into in this constructor, and I'm gonna assign the local variable DB contacts with the constructor contacts. Once you have this, make sure you dispose that, and in commit, what you're gonna do is you're gonna commit that command and make sure you mark this as async and await. So unit of work is ready. You also have to define the repository here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is movie repository. Movie repository, you have to pass here you go. So this is ready. So the next step, we need to create a controller for movies. In order to do that, select movieapp.web as your startup project. Click on controllers, add controller, MVC controller empty, click add, and I'm gonna name it movie controller. Here you go, the controller has been generated. The first thing I would like to do is I'm gonna define a private variable unit of work. I'm gonna add the reference. We need to generate a constructor. CTOR tab is gonna generate a constructor. Make sure you pass iUnit of work. So here I'm going to define a dynamic object, name is model new object, we need to add this namespace. Once you do that, I'm gonna models dot movies. So I want 2016 top movies. So for that you have to put the unit of work and then movie repository, get top movies year 2016. I want 5. You have to pass this model object to the view, and I'm gonna name model movie detail, movies detail view. So this view doesn't exist. We gotta create this by right clicking and go to add view, click OK. That's going to generate the view. Probably we need to build that. Oh, sorry, I did a mistake here. Okay, so here, right click, add view, add. Here you go, the view has been created. So I'm gonna list of movies. As we already have the movie collection saved in the model object, and we're passing it to this view, so simply we have to iterate through that collection and to display that. So I'm going to define a div with the class container, which is bootstrap class. Inside of that I'm going to define a table, and again I'm going to use a class table, which is also a bootstrap class. And the first my row is going to be the header, so I'm going to define a couple of table headers. Th title, genre, release date, director, and rating. The second row is we're gonna iterate through all the record set. In order to do that, we're gonna use razor. So for each model dot movies, TV, so the first is movie dot title, second is movie dot name, movie dot release date, director dot, so I'm going to use string format here, because we're gonna concatenate the first name and last name of the directors. View. First name, last name, the last one is the rating. And for rating, I am planning to use one of this star. I think this one is better. Glyph icons in Bootstrap. That's what I'm planning to use that for displaying as rating of a movie. So let's do that. So for that, I'm going to use for int I span. I'm going to use that class glyph icon star empty. That's class I'm going to use it, and that's it. So let's, the second step, we need to set it up, we also have to set it up the SQL Server connection string. To do that, I'm gonna services dot add db contacts, movie db contacts, option dot use SQL Server configuration dot get connection string, and I'm gonna name that the connection string name would be movie DB. So let's define movie DB connection string now, and we can define app setting.json. Go there, connection strings, in here. What is the connection string? I can grab it from the SQL Explorer. That's the database. I have the connection string. I will copy from here and simply paste it here. Save. We also have to register all our dependencies. So let's do that. Add scoped, type of a unit of work, type of unit of work. Second is repositories. Add scoped, type of here you go. All our dependencies have been injected, and I think we're ready. So let's execute that. So we have to type movie. Here you go. So it's telling you the genre is null. So why is null? I'm going back to the movie repository. Here you can see that in lazy loading doesn't support in .NET Core entity framework, so you have to include them yourself. So the first thing I will do, genre. I will also include director, and that should resolve the problem. Rerun the application. Movie. Oh, I have a spell mistake there. Let's go back and last name, save. Go back, refresh. Here you go. So you notice the rating is not displaying. So see the release date also, and why it's not displaying? Because the glyph currently we are using Bootstrap 4. If we go to this, Bootstrap CSS. So currently we're using 4.1, and glyph icons doesn't support in 4.1. This was feature of the Bootstrap 3.7 and 3.7 and earlier, but not 4. So, but we still can use this glyph icon. If we, and the step we have to do it, go to this 3.3.7, download Bootstrap, extract that, once you extract that, copy your fonts, go back to the Visual Studio, paste it under the www root, and then go back to the same folder and open the CSS, the Bootstrap, open that with the I will open with Notepad and find glyph. So let's copy from here all the way down there. Copy that and go to the Visual Studio. I would like to create another CSS folder, add new item, CSS, GLY, paste that in here and go back to your view, shared, and layout. It's just you to drag that glyph icon.css in here, save, and go back to this page and refresh it. Here you go. So you can see that all the movies which are highly rated are displaying on top and so on. So that was the implementation of the repository and unit of work design patterns. In the later video, I will be defining all these interface for the controller for add new movies, delete and update by using Bootstrap, and how you gonna using it for those update delete operation for your unit of work object. So please follow me to the next video, and if you like this video, don't forget to like and comment. Thank you so much.